Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Chronic Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Halloran, and I'm pumped to talk to y'all today. Today, we're going to have a solo episode, so it's just going to be me. Um, I've gotten a lot of questions. Well, I opened up the questions to the Instagram. I hope you guys can't hear the dryer. Anyways, I opened up the questions to the Instagram and I basically was just like, ask me anything I haven't been clear on in what are we at? I think the first 7 podcasts now. That's crazy. I actually get a lot of people at my current job who listen to the podcast and have been like, "Hey, like you talk about these certain things in endometriosis. Like, for example, you talk about the stages of endo, and I don't really know what they are. Like, you never elaborate on that or what an excision surgery is versus a cauterization." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? You're right. I don't go in more on that." So basically, I just wanted to open up the floor to that, so we will get into, like, rapid fire Q&A of things that people submitted to me. Today's episode is kinda just gonna be talking about endometriosis, what it is, maybe some causes, risk factors, common symptoms, diagnosis, just a little bit more actual information on that, and then I will definitely leave my sources in the show notes as well. I'm a very, like, research-driven person, so I always wanna make sure with the podcast that I leave you guys with actual, like, reputable sources that you can go look at if you wanna do some more research on your own. You don't have I'd never take my word for what it is. Obviously, I try to do my research before I come on the podcast and say anything, but I wanna make sure that I am entitling you guys to go out and do your own research as well, because I feel like that's really important and it can really make you feel justified as an advocate for yourself. So definitely go do further research. Oh, and that being said, I am not a healthcare professional, so everything I say is either things that I have experienced firsthand for myself or things that I have done my own research on. And again, I will link those sources in the show notes for you guys. So, that all being said, I wanted to start this episode off with my weekly report. So, I know I've been doing a lot of interview episodes recently, so I haven't been doing kinda like a weekly report before that. Let me know if you want me to, because I'm more than happy to do that as well. So, weekly report. Right now, I'm okay, also, report stands for reading, eating, playing, obsessing, recommending, and treating. So, reading, I just finished the Crescent City series, and I loved it. I recently got back into reading, like, I was not a reader growing up. Honestly, it kinda felt like a punishment because that was something that, like, I had to do, like, my mom would make me read before I went to bed, like, I wasn't allowed to watch TV or stuff like that most of the time, so it felt like a punishment kinda growing up, and I feel like in the past, probably year, maybe year and a half, I've gotten back into reading, and I really find a lot of joy in it now. So, I was never, like, a series person, like, I didn't even read the Harry Potter series growing up. I was kinda like a singular book type of person. I think I read a lot of, like, the Nicholas Sparks books growing up. Anyways, Sarah J. Maas has gotten me into series, and I've shout out Sarah J. Maas because I love that. I'm very excited about that. I read the ACOTAR series. I just finished Crescent City, and without giving any spoilers, I'm very happy about that. The first book was a little bit hard to get into, I guess, like, the first half of it. The second book, the ending of the second book hooked me, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited. I need to, like, start reading the 3rd book right now." Just finished that series, and then what is it? Oh gosh, Throne of Glass, I think, is her, like, 9 or 10 book series. Again, don't quote me, I don't really know, but that is on my next TBR. But I think I needed a little bit of a break before I started another series. So I just listened to I work in a lab, so I listen to a lot of books. Also, sorry if I'm a little bit sniffly and my voice is starting to come back, but I had influenza last week. So if anyone follows me on the podcast Instagram, you would have seen that I had to cancel I guess when you guys hear this now, it would have been 2 weeks ago. So But I had to cancel putting out a podcast episode that week because your girl was down bad. I had a high fever and I just could not edit a podcast episode. Apologize for my voice and sniffliness because I'm still recovering. So I recently just listened to Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. That one was good. It was cute. Sometimes I feel like when I'm after I finish a series, I just need kind of like a break and I need to listen to a cute little like rom-com. So Meet Me at the Lake was really good. I would give that probably 3.5, 4 stars. I thought it was good. And it was a very quick listen, quick read. So, and it was so quick that I felt like I still wasn't ready to get into the what is that called? Tower? No, it's Throne of Glass. It is Throne of Glass. I'm just not ready to get into it yet. So I'm listening to another cute little. It's actually not really. I think it's more of like enemies to lovers. I'm only like halfway through the book, but it's How to End a Love Story. And oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher her name or their name. Yulin. I'm not even gonna try. First name is Yulin though. But How to End a Love Story. It's in Reese's book club. It's pretty good so far. I'm about halfway through and yeah, I'm happy with it. That's what I'm reading. Eating. Okay, y'all. I am obsessed with this like yummy little like protein dessert thing that I have found created. I don't know. Okay, so here's the thing. This is what was happening. I am trying to reduce my refined sugar, which I said on an earlier podcast. I don't remember which one. And for a couple of reasons. One being, I think that it does contribute to some of my endo bloating and some of my symptoms. So I'm trying to reduce that with the goal of a full elimination and then adding it back in and seeing if it does actually trigger symptoms or not. I'm not at 100% cutting it out yet, but I'm trying to work on reducing it. But I love sweet things so much. Like I am the type of person that would love to eat something sweet after like lunch and dinner. It's been really hard for me like trying to figure out healthier alternatives for like an after dinner treat. And I recently did an interview with her name's Melissa, and she's the founder of a company called The Seed Cycle. They're based out of Australia. So that interview will go live. I'm not sure when, sometime soon. And I'm very excited for you guys to hear that interview with Melissa. First of all, she's great. She's amazing. But her company is amazing, guys. So it's seed cycling, which I don't know. I don't know if you guys have got this yet from me from listening to other episodes, but I originally wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be a doctor. And I'm still very passionate about chronic health, medicine, science. I work in science right now. I mean, like, there's a high chance that I do apply to go back to some type of like advanced practitioner. I don't know. That is still a thing. So I believe in medicine. It's not that I don't believe in medicine. I am finding myself leaning more towards some holistic ways to treat my endometriosis. And all of this goes to say into the fact that like 3 years ago, if you would have told me anything about seed cycling, I don't think I would have even listened to it. I think I would have been like, that's very like hippy dippy, holistic. Like, I just don't think that seeds would benefit me in that way. But now I've learned a lot about seed cycling, and I am telling you on a first person basis, that's not the correct way to say that, but I can't think of the correct saying for that. My own personal experience, this seed cycling I think has helped. Like, it has helped my symptoms a little bit. Essentially, there are 2 phases of your cycle, and cycle syncing and all of that is a very trending topic, and you know what? It kinda should be. Like, I'm glad that it's a trending topic because it's very interesting when you start to learn about it. Also, side note, can you guys tell that my ADHD is so bad today? Why in sex ed are we not taught about the phases of your fucking cycle? I would have liked to know that. I think that that's important to talk about. Like, why are we not told about the things that are happening in our body? Why are we not taught about these hormones? Why are we not taught that, like eating or exercising different ways during different parts of your cycle or sleeping more or what your body will need? Why are we not taught that? But we're taught about condoms, which yes is important. It's all important, and I really hope that that changes. I really hope that for the newer or younger generations, they start teaching about the different parts of your cycle because I think that that is very important for women to learn. And why are women learning about this in your late 20s? That's crazy. Anyways, I will get back to cycle syncing and all that stuff. But the point is that I have been eating this like protein powder dip, and the protein powder that I'm using is the Seed Cycles protein powder. The one that I'm using right now is phase 1, so it's for follicular or new moon, and that is chocolate. So what I've been doing is putting like 2 scoops of that into a little bowl, and then I have a tablespoon of peanut butter, and then I have about a fourth of a cup of either plain Greek yogurt or vanilla Greek yogurt. I think I did vanilla Greek yogurt last time just to give it a little bit more flavor. And then I put a little bit, probably, I don't know, a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of almond flour. And then I put dark chocolate chips in it and I kind of like whip it up. And it's essentially like, I don't know, I found a similar recipe on TikTok and it's supposed to be like cookie dough, but it honestly, it doesn't really taste that much like cookie dough, but it's very good if you dip some apples in it. Obviously, it needs to be kept in the fridge, and I've been making that, like, on repeat for the past week, 2 weeks, and I love it. It's so yummy. It fills that, like, sweetness that I need after dinner, and it has protein. It has protein, it has dairy, it has these seeds, so in this seed cycling protein mix, it has Inca inchi and hemp protein and camu camu and vitamin C. And probably has more things than that as well. It minimum has those in it, which are really good for you. So I want to tell you a little bit more about seed cycling. Okay, so what is seed cycling? Seed cycling is a technique that guides your body into a natural rhythm that supports optimal hormone balance. So it's essentially using food as medicine, and it comes from like traditional Chinese medicine. 90% of women experience at least one symptom of PMS at some point in their lives. Also, PMS is premenstrual syndrome. And it has about 20 to 40% of these women experience PMS monthly, and 2 to 8% experience PMDD. And we know that 1 in 10 minimum, at least 1 in 10 women assigned female at birth experience or have endometriosis. There's also an additional 8 to 13% of women who are diagnosed with PCOS, and 70% of cases are undiagnosed globally. That comes from the World Health Organization. These statistics are pretty concerning. Hormone health is an issue. With all that in mind, that's why I pushed towards a little bit more of this holistic journey for myself. Doing this research on seed cycling, there's essentially 4 key seeds. So there's flaxseed, pumpkin, sunflower, and sesame seeds, which supports your body's hormones. And the concept is essentially that these seeds carry important oils, vitamins, and minerals, which can assist your body to support the production and elimination of key hormones. These blends are high in vitamins like zinc and selenium, which can help support estrogen release. So, a lot of people with endometriosis struggle with estrogen dominance, and that is essentially one of the big things that seed cycling is trying to balance out. By consuming these seeds, you're getting vitamins and minerals that can help flush out this estrogen. In a later episode, Melissa will come on the podcast and we'll talk a lot more in depth about the science about this. But if you want to go ahead and read up about seed cycling, you can go to theseedcycle.au.com. I will also link that in the show notes. And then once you read through, there's a lot of really good information on their website. But once you read through all of that, I do have a discount code for you guys. It's Lexy15, Lexy15, and that'll get you 15% off. I love it. They have a couple of different seed cycling like mixes. So currently I have the seed cycle 1 month pack, and that has like phase 1, phase 2. And you can throw that into like smoothies, you can bake it into things. They also have like actual baking mixes. And then my newest favorite is the protein mix, which is literally so easy to put into everything. Like I said, I've been putting it into that protein powder apple dip. And then I've also put it into smoothies before, which is a really easy way to add that stuff in. Okay. Playing. I haven't really been playing anything recently, but I do want to get into golfing. Which I am not athletically inclined at all, but my boyfriend is super, super into golfing and he goes like 3 or 4 times a week. I'm just kidding. He goes like twice, maybe. But we're gonna go to the golfing range. So hopefully playing golf. Obsessing. I've been obsessing with getting at least 10,000 steps a day. Which honestly, I think I average like 8,000. It's kind of difficult to get to 10,000 when your job is like kind of sedentary most of the time, but I've been really obsessed with trying to reach that goal every day. I gave myself a goal of hitting 10,000 steps every day in June. I'm recommending calls with your family. I'm the older sister. I have 4 younger brothers, and sometimes it can be really difficult. I have a lot of like older sister guilt. I don't know if anyone else experiences that. I have been trying to prioritize just calls with family. I like to think that I'm pretty close with my entire family, so I've been trying to just like on my drive home from work, I try to call like somebody in my family and have a little bit of a talk and a catch up with them. And I think that it just makes me feel happy and grounded and like I'm still connected with them. Most of them I live literally across the country from now, and it can be kind of difficult with different time zones. So I'm definitely recommending just call one of your family members. Call your mom, call your dad, call your sibling, call your grandparents if you're lucky enough to still have them. Call an aunt, call an uncle, call a cousin, whatever you got to do. Call somebody and just see what's going on in their life. I'm slowly treating myself to some new clothes. For a long time, I've told myself that I'll buy some new clothes when I lose a couple pounds, which is a horrible thing to say. And it's so funny because I would quite literally like smack my friend if they said that to me. But I have wanted to lose some weight for a while, and it can be really difficult to lose weight when your body is in a constant inflammation fight. So I'm giving myself some grace on that, and I'm slowly treating myself to clothes that actually fit my body and understanding that as you get older, you go through maybe another puberty. I'm 26, and I swear to God, like, where did these hips come from? Anyways, so I'm slowly treating myself to clothes that like actually fit my body, and I'm learning to be okay with that. All of that being said, let's get into a little bit of the episode. I think I want to start off with just a little bit of general information. So, what is endometriosis? Endometriosis is a condition where tissue similar to the lining of the uterus, aka the endometrium, grows outside of the uterus. It affects an estimated of 1 in 10 people born female at birth of a reproductive age globally. Typically, the areas affected are the ovaries, fallopian tubes, the tissue lining the pelvis, and it can spread beyond the pelvic organs, which is actually extremely common. For me, I had endometrial tissue or similar tissue all over my bowel. I had it on intestines, and now it's thought that I also have it in my thoracic cavity. So, causes and risk factors. I don't know if people know this, but the exact cause is not known. We actually don't know what causes this. The fact that we don't know that is, I don't know if that's like confusing or maybe we should, or maybe I think it's just another green, like red light that we need more research on that. And there are some potential factors. So it's thought that there could be a genetic predisposition. It could have something to do with retrograde menstruation, maybe something to do with embryonic cell transformation, immune system disorders, hormonal imbalances. I mean, hormonal imbalances are extremely common with endometriosis, but it's kind of like a chicken and an egg thing. Which came first? Is there a hormonal imbalance because you have endometriosis, or do you have endometriosis because you have a hormonal imbalance? It's the same thing with immune system disorders. For me, I have a terrible immune system. I get sick often and I get sick really bad. I had influenza recently and I was down bad. My boyfriend, who sleeps next to me every night, didn't get it. Influenza is contagious. How did this man not get it? It was the same thing with COVID. He never got COVID from me either. Anyways, it's the same thing. Do you have immune system issues because you have endometriosis and you're in constant inflammation? Maybe. Or do you have endometriosis because your immune system is shit? We don't know. Potential risk factors. I'm not going to say that I necessarily agree with some of these things, but this is what this is what I found. Okay. So some risk factors are never giving birth, starting your period at an early age, menopause and at an older age, short menstrual cycles, and high levels of estrogen. For me, this is all saying hormonal imbalances, right? I also had a lot of people ask me about what the stages of endometriosis are. So, endometriosis is classified as 4 stages based on the extent, location, depth of endometrial implants, as well as the severity of adhesions in ovarian endometriomas, which are cysts. These stages are determined by a surgical procedure called a laparoscopy, which typically in other podcast episodes, you probably heard me talk about my diagnosis surgery, which is a laparoscopic procedure. This is supposed to be a non-invasive route, and you essentially come out with, I think I had maybe 4 or 5 small incisions, one of them being in your belly button. They put a camera in your belly button to look around, and then they put a couple of other incisions kind of around your pelvic area to put tools in. And essentially, the camera will lead them around the pelvic area to look for endometriosis. So these stages are classified by the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Stage 1 is considered minimal, and this is from small superficial lesions on the lining of the pelvis or abdomen. Also, I had some questions about what the difference between adhesions and lesions are. Lesion can lead to essentially local inflammation, and then this inflammation from this little lesion can cause formation of scar tissue. When this scar tissue comes in contact with like a nearby inflamed area during this scar forming process, it can form this band of scar tissue, which is called an adhesion. The difference is there's an endometriotic lesion, which is basically like an endometriosis cell. And that causes your immune system to be like red flag, inflammation. And then this inflammation forms scar tissue, and the scar tissue can create this big band, and that's an adhesion. Typically during surgery, they'll see these like black spots, and those are lesions or implants of endometriosis. And then if there's like an actual band of tissue, that's an adhesion. And it'll look like a new like band of tissue that's kind of like pulling from one part of your body to another part. And that creates this like deep pulling sensation. That's an adhesion. Again, stage 1, small superficial lesions on the lining of the pelvis or abdomen. And this has few or no adhesions or scar tissue. Stage 2 is considered mild, and it has more or slightly deeper lesions than stage 1. And this includes some small areas of adhesions. Stage 3 is moderate. This includes many deep implants, small cysts on one or both of the ovaries, and a presence of filmy adhesions. Stage 4, severe. This includes numerous deep implants, large cysts on one or both of the ovaries, and many, many dense and filmy and deep adhesions binding organs together. That's rough. Is painful. These stages, I do want to preface that according to the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, the stages don't necessarily correlate with the severity of the symptoms. For example, somebody with stage 1 might experience severe pain, and somebody with stage 4 might not have any pain. The diagnosis and the staging are really just more crucial for developing an effective treatment plan. And it can help a lot with fertility, knowing what stage you are and like where these adhesions are. Sometimes people can have stage 4 endometriosis, be considered severe, and not have any symptoms until they start to go down wanting to have a baby and have fertility issues. And then they find out that the reason they have these fertility issues is because of these like dense, thick adhesions that is causing their uterus to not want to implant an egg. Some common symptoms and diagnosis. Some common symptoms are painful periods, pelvic pain and cramping, maybe before and extend several days into a period, pain with intercourse, pain with bowel movements or urination. I know for me, I've experienced frequency in urination. Like I think that I have UTIs all the time. And then one day, one of my gynecologists was like, yeah, so did you know that frequent urination can be a symptom of endometriosis and you don't have to like come back all the time to get UTI tests? And I was like, no, I had no idea. Another symptom could be excessive bleedings, really heavy periods, infertility, fatigue, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, nausea, probably 100 other things that I'm missing. To get an official diagnosis for endometriosis, a laparoscopic surgery is required. In the sense, you can get clinically diagnosed with endometriosis, whereas your doctors make an educated assumption that you do have endometriosis without doing surgery. If you want a for sure yes or no, it is required to do a surgery. So we already talked about what that looks like, and they basically just go in and look and see if you have any lesions or adhesions. You can also use medical history, a physical exam, ultrasounds, MRIs. Most of the time, endometriosis does not come up on imaging, but in sometimes it does, and then you can use that as a diagnosis as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about some treatments that I have done. Typically, normally, the first thing that doctors will do to treat endometriosis is give you hormonal birth control. For me, I have a blood clotting disorder. I have factor V Leiden, which puts me at a higher risk for blood clots. So I can't be on traditional birth control pills. Birth control pills are GnRH agonists and antagonists. This is a hormone that's produced in where I think produced in the hypothalamus, and it regulates puberty, sexual development, and ovulation. Outside of birth control pills, you can also do other hormone therapy like progesterone therapy or aromatase inhibitors. For me, I'm on the Mirena IUD, which releases local hormones, so it's a little bit of a safer option for me. All birth control works in similar ways. It prevents pregnancy by stopping ovulation and blocking conception. So most birth control pills combine synthetic versions of estrogen and progesterone, which are naturally produced in your ovaries. And then these hormones work together to prevent ovulation by inhibiting follicular development. This progesterone prevents the ovaries from releasing an egg during your menstrual cycle. They also work by thickening cervical mucus. Progesterones also thicken and then stiffen the mucus around your cervix, and this makes it harder for sperm to enter your uterus. Birth control also works by thinning the uterine lining. It thins the endometrium, and it can slow egg progress, and literally by slowing the egg's progress through the fallopian tubes. The thought is that by doing all these actions, you can help endometriosis symptoms. One of the examples is by thinning this uterine lining, the endometrial lining, and your lining has to be thick enough for it to shed, right? So part of the thought is if you're not producing more of it, then you're not producing more endometrial tissue outside of your uterus either. For me, like I said, I can't be on hormonal birth control pills. So I have the Mirena IUD, which works in a similar way, but it stays local in your uterus. And then I also tried Orlissa, kind of similar to birth control in the way that it is a GnRH receptor antagonist. And it literally is used to treat moderate to severe pain associated with endometriosis. So it is an endometriosis drug. It works by kind of dialing down the amount of estrogen. The thought is that lowering these estrogen levels can help manage endometriosis pain. In turn with that, the side effects you get from it are essentially medically induced menopause symptoms. When I took Orlissa, I think I was 20, and that was not a good situation for me. I was having hot flashes, I was very hormonal. I also had a lot of like shortness of breath, which I don't know if that was actually related to Orlissa or if it was other factors. I'm not sure, but it was a short-lived thing. There's also surgical treatments for endometriosis. There's ablation and excision. A lot of people were confused about these things as well. So for me, I got my diagnostic surgery was an ablation, also known as a cauterization. This type of surgery, they go in and they burn off endometrial adhesions. So they're essentially burning off these lesions and adhesions, and they're burning off scar tissue. The problem with this is that by burning it off, you can in turn form more scar tissue. Maybe not more, but different, extra scar tissue. And another downside to it is that you can't get the entire endometriosis adhesion or lesion because you're going in there and you're burning it off, and you can only burn so much. You can't get the entire thing. Another form of surgery is an excision surgery, which is using a little robot. It's still non-invasive in the way that it's a laparoscopic surgery, but instead of burning it off, you're going in there and you're using a little robot to cut off the entire lesion or adhesion. Plus side to this is that you get the entire thing. So the thought is if you can go through and you can get all of the endometriosis, adhesions, and lesions, you can stop the amount of growth for a longer period of time. Endometriosis will grow back. There's no cure to it. With excision, the thought is that you have more time with less pain, less symptoms. Another surgery is a very invasive surgery, and it's a hysterectomy, which this removes the uterus and sometimes can remove ovaries and fallopian tubes as well. There's also some alternative therapies to endometriosis. There could be physical therapy, acupuncture, herbal supplements, other Western medication. So things I have done physical therapy. I've done pelvic floor physical therapy, which I don't know if people know this or not, but pelvic floor physical therapy is internal physical therapy. I did not know this until my first appointment. And homegirl was like, okay, let's take your pants off. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know what we were doing, but I did not think that. Makes a hell of a lot of sense when you think about it. Like, what else are they going to do for you? Like, what are we stretching my legs? Like, I don't know. But yeah, so pelvic floor physical therapy is internal manipulation. Pelvic floor physical therapy sessions can include exercises, stretches, manual therapy, aka internal manipulation, biofeedback therapy, and electrical stimulation to strengthen or relax your pelvic floor muscles. Some of the reasons that it's suggested is it can help improve muscle flexibility. It can help improve urinary and bowel problems. A lot of people with endometriosis can have a lot of discomfort with urination and a lot of discomfort with bowel movements. And it can actually be like pretty traumatic for some women to go through. Imagine pooping being traumatic for you. Like that is a real thing that happens with people with endometriosis because of how painful it can be. Pelvic floor physical therapy can also help with pain during intercourse. It can help with muscle spasms. A lot of people with endo get involuntary muscle spasms in their vagina. And I know for me, I've gotten like electrical shocks is literally like kind of that's about all I can describe it as in my hoo-ha. Not a pleasant feeling. Pelvic floor PT can help with that. Lower back pain, hip pain, sciatica. It can help restore proper function to muscles and tissues that have maybe become overactive or dysfunctional due to chronic pain. I did pelvic floor physical therapy, I think maybe too soon after my surgery to diagnose endo. I did it, I think maybe like 6 to 8 months after. At this point, I think I would probably be ready to try it again. I don't think I was in the right headspace for that. It induced a lot of cramping for me. I'm not sure if I gave it long enough, but I think I'd be willing to try that again. So, pelvic floor physical therapy, acupuncture. I actually am trying to decide if I want to try dry needling. I've done a lot of research on it and it looks like it can be pretty beneficial. The actual mechanism seems to be unknown as to why that is helpful for endometriosis, but I'm pretty terrified of needles in like any form. So the thought of like having these long, skinny needles in me, uh, is difficult for me to overcome, but I've read a lot of papers of people having really positive interactions to acupuncture dry needling for endometriosis symptoms. So I'm definitely looking into that. If anyone has tried that and they have like good success with it, reach out to me because I'm really interested to hear more about that. Different herbal supplements. So right now I take, I think, 4 different supplements. I can't even remember what they are. One of them is berberine. I don't remember the names of the other supplements I'm on right now, honestly. Really quick, I also want to say a couple of like misconceptions about endometriosis because, oh my God, are there like 1,000 of them? Endometriosis is just bad cramps. It's an uncommon condition. Pregnancy cures endometriosis, which, oh my God, this one like makes me want to scream at people. Mom, if you're listening to this, I love you. You're great. But my mom called me the other week and she literally said, I think that maybe you should get pregnant because it'll help your endometriosis. And I wanted to hang up on her. Okay. I wanted to hang up. It's okay, I educated her, but still, it's a common misconception. Hysterectomy is the only cure. It's always visible in imaging. So let's set the record straight a little bit about this. Endometriosis is not just bad cramps. It is a complex whole body inflammatory disorder. And most of the time, for me at least, the cramps are not even in my pelvic region. Like I have a lot of cramps under my rib cage. Okay. Would not say that that is a period cramp. It's an uncommon condition. I think I've said it 3 times, maybe 2 or 3 times in this podcast episode already, but 1 in 10 people born female at birth have endometriosis. 1 in 10 globally. Minimally. We also know that it takes 6 to 10 years to get diagnosed with endometriosis. With that kind of statistic, there is for sure more than 1 in 10 people with endometriosis. That is a huge number of people that suffer every day. Okay, sorry, I got really passionate there for a second. Pregnancy cures endometriosis. This is not true. Nothing cures endometriosis. Pregnancy may help endometriosis for some people during pregnancy, but it will come back after. Majority of people get the full swing of their symptoms back after pregnancy. And also, can we stop saying that pregnancy is like a good way to treat endometriosis? That is not a treatment. That is bringing another human being into the world, which is a beautiful thing. And I would be lucky to have that one day, but that is not a treatment for endometriosis. It's not. That is a huge lifelong commitment and a miracle that people are blessed with to bring another human being into this world. And it is not something to treat a chronic pain disorder. That is not a treatment, and it is 100% not a cure. Oh, God. Sorry. Passionate again. Hysterectomy is the only cure. No, it's not. Again, not a cure. Not a cure. There is no cure. Second of all, there have been studies that people who have had hysterectomies still have symptoms post because it is not contained just in your uterus. That is like the whole thing about endometriosis, that's outside of your uterus. So taking out your uterus isn't going to stop the tissue that is already outside of it growing on your other organs. So, okay. And it's always visible on imaging. We said earlier in the episode that most of the time you can't see it on imaging. Those are some big misconceptions that I hear frequently that I just really wanted to vent about. And I'm sure anyone else that deals with this probably feels the same way. Let's do some rapid fire questions. I have no idea how long I've been talking to you guys. Rapid fire questions. So these are questions that I got from you guys, my lovely friends and community. Thank you for giving me some questions to talk about. And thank you so much for listening and being a part of this community. Anyways, before I get really mushy gushy. So what inspired you to start the podcast? That's a good question. You inspired me to start the podcast. I inspired me to start the podcast. 14-year-old Lexi inspired me to start the podcast, my younger self. And honestly, my younger cousin, Maddie, if you're listening to this right now, you inspired me to start the podcast. My little baby cousin has been going through some pretty similar symptoms and like a little bit of like life that I went through. The fact that she is 8 years younger than me, and the fact that the same things, just the confusion and not knowing what's going on in your body, and doctors not listening to you and doctors not knowing what's going on is happening, like 8 years later after I went through it, that inspired me to start the podcast because that happens all the time. Like that is not unique. And that makes me really angry and sad. And giving people with endo and other chronic conditions, which I know that we've talked a lot about endometriosis in the last couple of episodes on the podcast, but I 1000% want to dive into other chronic conditions. And the podcast is called The Chronic Chronicles because of endo, but also because of the numerous other chronic conditions that people deal with on a daily basis. So I'm excited to talk about some other ones too. That being said, that's really why I wanted to give a voice to people that deal with chronic conditions and deal with endometriosis, and a space for, like young women or anyone really that goes through similar things and may not have even known what these conditions are. Like, have never heard them before and are listening and are like, oh my gosh, that is very similar to my story. And then they can go to their doctor and ask them questions and be your own advocate. I wanted to give power to other women. Can you describe a typical day living with endometriosis? Hmm. Typical day. Every day is different. I'll give you like, I don't know, I'll give you my day today. It's very hard to track personally for me. It's super hard for me to track my period because I've had an IUD for 10 years, different IUDs, but I've been on birth control for 10 years. So I do not get regular periods. Honestly, I rarely bleed. Sometimes I have spotting, but it's very difficult for me to track my period because I don't bleed. So there's no like physical indication in that sense. I think my period is supposed to start next week. I'm recording this on a Wednesday. It's June 19th, and I'm pretty sure my period is supposed to start more like the 25th. So, that being said, it's not like I'm like expecting period symptoms. Okay. So, I got up today. I ate a moderately nutritious breakfast. I made these little like things like egg, hash browns, some cheese, some spinach, some onions, some peppers, moderately healthy. I ate that this morning. I drank some water. Then I had my coffee. That's how I'm like trying to avoid some flares there, not having coffee on an empty stomach. Did all of that. I went to work. I worked a normal day, easy peasy. I didn't have any symptoms yet. I wore jeans to work today. Thought it was like not going to be a bloating day. And then I had this like copycat Chipotle burrito bowl for lunch that I made at home. A little bit of like a healthier version of that. Went through my day. And then at about 4:30, I had some more water throughout the day. I had another coffee throughout the day. Um, about 4:30 comes around and suddenly I am bloated. I look 4 months pregnant. I can't button my jeans anymore. I'm in a lot of pain and it's almost like hard to breathe because I'm so bloated. And I have no idea where that came from. Like in my brain, I did everything correctly today. So then I had to take some ibuprofen because I still needed to get through like another hour and a half of work. And I started having probably like 5 out of 10 level cramps during this time as well. Then I came home. I ate Panda Express for dinner because I was having cramps and I couldn't make dinner anymore because, endo life. My bloating has gone from like 4 months pregnant to like maybe 2 months pregnant. So it's getting a little bit better. But honestly, it's not like I did anything wrong. I felt like I did everything correctly and you still have flares. So that was my day today with endometriosis. What has been the most surprising aspect of managing endo? It's a never-ending thing, right? The fact that I continually have to wake up and manage my condition is difficult for me. And I have gone through times of burnout with endo. I just don't want to do all the things I need to do to make it feel like I'm in control of my body. Like days like today, I felt like I did everything correctly, but I still had a flare up. That can be really tiring. So I've went through burnout in those periods and then not managed my condition at all and then really reaped the consequences of that. So I think the most surprising aspect is just the everyday challenge of putting so much thought into being healthy. What advice would you give to somebody who is newly diagnosed with endometriosis or is trying to get diagnosed with endometriosis? I think my biggest piece of advice is to be your own biggest advocate because you are the one that's in your body every day. And at the end of the day, you are your biggest supporter. So if you can't advocate for yourself, no one else will. And I know that might sound harsh, and I don't mean it in a harsh way. Like, however you advocate for yourself is good and continue doing that. I feel like as I've gotten older and I've gotten maybe more confident, just like in who I am, I've become a lot better at advocating for myself and being okay with asking for what I need and what I want. Last question. What's a favorite self-care routine that helps you cope with endometriosis? Ooh, okay. A hot bath with bath salts. I like to go like I don't know. Like I just like bath salts in general. So most of the time like I will pick up some bath salts or my boyfriend if he sees them at stores, he'll grab them for me. And I love hot bath. So a hot bath with like a really, really good ice cold water with like a liquid IV in it or something, and a good book, and maybe a facial on top of it. Thanks for listening to my solo episode. I hope that this was educational for you, and I hope that it really resonated with you. And if you do struggle with endometriosis, or maybe you listen to this episode and you're like, oh, that sounds really similar to things that I'm going with, just know that you can ask for support from your physicians. That's what they're there for. And just keep pushing. If you know that something is wrong with your body, you know your body best. Yeah, thank you for listening. My DMs are always open. You can interact with me on Instagram at Chronic Chronicles Pod. You can also email me at the Chronic Chronicles Pod at gmail.com. Please, please, please make sure that you rate, review, subscribe, interact with the podcast. It really helps retain and kind of like push the podcast out to other people. The more reviews and ratings that we have on episodes, the more likely that Spotify and Apple will actually like show it to people. And I'm also going to be posting most of the episodes on YouTube, so make sure you interact there with me. And again, thank you guys so much. Until we talk next time, make sure that you stay safe, stay healthy, and treat yourself to something this week. Okay, love you. Bye.